and bulldozed, but there was still some left. And many fighters had met their end under these olive trees and bled to death. And I began to think about how many generations of fighters, of people resisting occupation, had died underneath these olive trees and bled into the roots of these trees. And I began to think that really there is so much blood in this tiny space of land and in these roots, in this soil. And actually, you know, there is probably a particle of the blood of an intergenerational resistance in these olives. And these soldiers, just so ignorant and so stupid, and they don't have a clue, and they thought that they were mocking these people, these prisoners, by giving them these olives, but actually there was liberation struggle in one of these olives, that this one olive was more powerful than this army and this act of humiliation that they tried to perpetrate. So it gave me hope. It gave me hope. But there are 11,800 prisoners inside Israeli jails. Some of them are being held in black sites, like Guantanamo Bay, and the Red Cross cannot access these sites. Israel denies they exist, and these prisoners are subject to torture, subject to degrading treatment, you know. And it's not just them. I mean, a tactic has been also for the Israeli forces to use relatives to humiliate and put pressure on prisoners. A friend of mine who's an ambulance driver, he was arrested with 2 brothers, and he was held for 3 months. And I was like, oh, 3 months, you know, people are held 3 years. And he was like, no, we were tortured every day. And then we were kept naked, and we were showered with freezing cold water. And then they brought in our mother. And the forces had brought in their mother to see them, to see her sons, 3 of her sons, beaten, bruised, freezing, starving. And when she came in and saw them, and the intelligence officer thought, right, you know, I've got them now, I'm going to break them now. She said, Shid halak. She said, stand up straight, and, you know, don't look down, you know, don't let this break you, you know, be strong. And the intelligence officer responded by like karate kicking her in the chest. And my friend said that she got a split breast and you know, was heavily injured in the attack, and later on ended up dying of cancer. And the experience was obviously very traumatic for her. But they survived, and they're still alive, and these prisoners hopefully will still stay alive. But the Israeli forces do have a policy of not giving medical treatment to prisoners. Everyone just gets a paracetamol, that's your lot. It doesn't matter if you have cancer or liver disease or whatever. So we are engaged in a campaign with the Ministry of Detainees in Gaza and different organisations to support Palestinian prisoners who, by the way, are being forced now to wear orange suits like Guantanamo Bay detainees. This is what the Ministry of Detainees told us, as another act of humiliation. People need to see the prisons inside Israeli territory as Guantanamo Bays, mini Guantanamos, where prisoners are being tortured and humiliated. No visits since 2000. There are prisoners who've never seen their children, kids growing up who've never seen their fathers, and the Israeli forces also give multiple life sentences. And sometimes it's just enough to be the wife. A friend of ours is a wife of a sheikh in Islamic Jihad, and she's been sent to prison for 6 months. Her son was arrested a long time ago for being Sheikh Bassam's son, basically. And this is a policy of collective punishment. So where do we see the hope in this situation? Well, definitely with initiatives like Viva Palestina, like Free Gaza, like these siege-breaking initiatives, but also we need to build long-term twinning relationships with mosques, with schools, with universities, with paramedic stations inside Gaza. People are incredibly isolated. People are so traumatized there. You know, the Gaza Community Mental Health Project has stated that really, you know, 7 years of work that they've been doing, so helping people recover from previous massacres, has been blown out of the water. It's been completely undermined by, you know, 23 days of massacre. And the most common sort of symptom for people is a sense of abandonment, but also a sense of that the world is hating Palestinians. You know, they are mocking us. They're taking the piss. You know, how can this be happening to us? And nobody is stopping these criminals. So one of the ways to really, you know, help people's mental health is justice, obviously, but bringing these perpetrators to justice, but also helping people reconstruct their lives. Because I just want to say quickly, there are 3 areas that the Community Mental Health Project identified as areas of solidarity and support for Palestinians in Gaza, and that help them get through their trauma. First is religion. So, you know, it's mostly Muslim population, people, they live their religion, they walk the talk, and people support each other, bless each other, live the religion, and there are many mosques, well, there were many mosques in Gaza, and these are sanctuaries for people and centres of resistance and community. But 40 mosques were completely destroyed in the war. One of the most important mosques, just sort of psychologically speaking, was the mosque opposite Shifa Hospital, which was bombed to pieces in the second day of the war. And this deeply undermined people's need, really, and to sort of fortify themselves by going there. If they had relatives in the hospital, or if they'd lost someone in the hospital, they would go and pray in that mosque, and that was destroyed. So that sort of centre, or that sort of crutch of support, really has been undermined by the war. The second one is family, the extended family. Obviously, Palestinian families are very big. You've got, whole generations living on, 3, 4, 5 separate floors of one building. Because the occupation destroyed buildings and destroyed entire areas that had been historically where families had grown up. They scattered families. So, maybe the men are living in the tents during the day, but the women are staying with aunts or uncles. Families have been scattered around different areas, and they're no longer together. One of the Samuni family fathers was saying, I just want a tent so I can be with my brothers, so I can be with my family. They're staying in a completely different part of Gaza. Our family's been torn apart. So this fabric of solidarity and support has been ripped too by literally Israel blowing holes into it. And then the third is previous experience, people relying on the previous experience of trauma to know that they can get through it because they've been through it before. If you've been shot for the first time, it's going to be quite traumatic. The third, the fourth, the fifth, or like my friend Ashraf, the paramedic, the sixth time, it's all, you get used to it. But because of the level of the violence and the intensity of it, and the fact that governments of the world didn't stop it, we all tried to stop it, but no government stopped it. This did traumatize people, and it's so important to break through this through initiatives like Ewa Jasiewicz, but also carrying on the relationships after people have gone, after people have given some money, keep in touch with people, even twinning kebab shops. Trust me, twinning kebab shops is important, so that when people are coming and they're buying the chips, they think, Javalia, what's Javalia?